Hello everybody, James Rink here. It is February 17th, 2019, and welcome to Super Soldier Talk. I have Camilla with us today, and we're going to go into different various programs that she was involved with, including Monarch, Montauk, and the SSP. So, Camilla, why don't you go ahead and give us like a short bio of what you think is going on with your life for audience members who are new to this, who have no clue what they just clicked on and wonder why they're here.
Okay, basically, I was kidnapped away from my regular parents for good permanently, and I was I was 10 when that happened, and I was with them till I was about 15 or 16. And then I'm not sure what they did in that part, but they mind wiped me, they erased my memory, and they age regressed me. They shrunk me into a toddler, and then they proceeded to put me into different programs and the secret space program, and I was just continually a robot, basically. It's my bio. I was a robot. Oh, your audio went out.
Sorry, I thought I clicked on it. Okay. Do you happen to know, do you remember your life before you were re-aged into a toddler? Do you recall any of that?
Yep, I do.
Okay, so why don't you maybe start with that? First of all, I know I usually don't like to ask women how old they are, but I'm not asking you what your Earth age is, but how many 20 and backs and all that do you think you've done? So we can maybe estimate.
I think I'm like over 100, and it's it's definitely interesting. Because they put me in back in timelines so many times that I don't even know. But I think it was, I should be from my regular birthday, from when I was really born, with my real mom, I should be like 62. But I know I've gone through at least a few different ones in the 70s, like 3 or 4. So if they were 20 and backs, and then I think as an adult, I think I went through a really long one, like a 40 and back too, because they were trying to make me not remember again. So
All right. Well, let's go back to the question prior to your re-age as a toddler. Can you describe what your life was like back then?
yeah, my mom was really cool, and I think that this kidnapper lady just didn't like her. And I started really getting like real memories of my real parents, and a lot of like the music they used to listen to, and like just like they were fun people. And I actually got in a skating accident where I sprained my ankles. My mom was a really, really good skater, and she's a singer, and I sprained my ankles in the hospital, and that's where we met these candy striper ladies that were supposed to be really good, but they started like stalking my house, started like visiting all the time. My real dad did not like them, so if he would show up, they would leave, but they were always like coming over. If it was just my mom, and it was like, the olden days where the dad worked and the mom stayed home, and so they would come over and they would always criticize my real mom. I remember that. And they were the candy stripers, and that lady, one of those ladies, was the ones that kidnapped me. But it was a guy that kidnapped me, but it was like 4 different kidnappers that I knew.
Okay, so you're saying that you were a child and then re-aged back into a toddler again?
Yeah, and that was so crazy. I don't remember the technology or anything, but the one time they did it in like around 1970, they shrunk me into a toddler size, and I was so shocked. I couldn't believe it. Do you want me to tell you? I like cried out to God and was like, God, what do I do? Like, it was so bad. I was so distressed. Yeah, they turned me into a 2-year-old, and I cried out to God. And I formed a really, really, really deep relationship with the creator because I was told, I feel like God told me to come out and meditate outside with him all the time because I couldn't handle it. They shrunk me into a tear. I actually drew a picture of when they shrunk me. I dropped all my pictures to a 2-year-old. It's taking a while. I forgot I drew so many pictures. I had this real picture. I ran outside and I was like, God, what do I do? They shrunk me. And I remember first.
Can you move the picture so it covers the full back up some so we can back it up? I just want to see. Okay, there you go. So it looks like you're playing what, baseball here or something, or a kite?
Yeah, that's me shrunken down. Like first, I remember going to a Halloween party, but then I remember waking up at the farm where I was at, where I got kidnapped to, and I was a little toddler, and I was not a toddler before. I must have been like 15 or 16, like 5'2", and I got shrunken into like the size of a toddler, and I was so freaked out. And they came running out, and I was like shorter than the grass, the wheat, and they started taking pictures of me. My fake dad, the kidnapper, he was always like taking pictures, and my fake mom was always with the clipboard all the time. And they just took pictures of me. They shoved a flower in my hand, and I wish I had the picture. I was just so shocked, but I have to find that picture. It's in one of these places.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I can add it to the video as you're talking.
Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, they shrunk me into a 2-year-old. I mean, I would take a lie detector test on that. I'm here to say that my testimony is I was age regressed, and it's real. And that was in 1970. And they did that to me in this project.
All right. So do you happen to have any idea why they would pick you? Because there's billions of people on the planet they could have chosen. What made you so special that they wanted to turn you into a
I
target?
don't think it was special. They tortured me the whole time. It was really bad. I
Was
wish that.
was there some kind of gifts that you may have had that they were trying to enhance through the torture sessions, or maybe a past
Um,
life connection?
I know that they had me really, my psi abilities were really, they had them amped up in these programs. I have different memories of them doing different things so I don't know if it was like pure hatred of my mother. I mean, I think that just my fake mother was really high up in some military craziness, and or maybe she was part alien, I don't know, and then she ended up hating my mom, and then they ended up kidnapping me and raising me, and they did develop my psychic ability. Oh, they did in these programs. I don't know if I was tested before, because I remember them taking me somewhere, my fake mom and fake dad, the kidnappers, when I was still with my real parents. So I don't know. I don't think it was very special. It sucked.
Okay. Well, why don't you talk a little bit more about what this host family, what they did to you? Because you mentioned they tortured you.
Oh yeah, they would electrocute me until I was like flying across like the fields. Um,
Well, why don't you describe the process? So, what did they put you into an electric chair, or did they use a cattle prod, or?
there was different things. Sometimes I had stun guns, and I would go flying. Like I remember this one time we were getting stun gunned out in the snow, and these new guys were like, can we stun gun them in the snow? But usually what I was talking about in the early days, it was like these chairs that looked like dentist chairs, and they would have like these things to make us not bite our tongues, and I would just go flying across the fields and just thumping, and I could see all the different squares of the fields. And then sometimes they had these things that would like shock my fingertips, like if I was getting programmed for something like antisocial skills and like all these different bad programs they would give me. They would just give me these shocks so that I could still talk to them, or like to spell my new name because they had a kidnapped name for me. And yeah, just different kinds.
Okay. What other kind of torture sessions did they do to you? Why don't you describe that?
We also would drown me. They would drown all of us kids over and over again. I drew a picture of it.
So when we see it, when you first show that first image, it show, or that drawing, it just showed one person. And and then you just mentioned that there were multiple kids. So, well, can you describe how many, are these surrogate brother and sisters?
Yeah, like sometimes, all my pictures just fell. Hold on, sorry. It was in this farm, the horror farm. And so I had a brother that was kidnapped. I saw him get kidnapped. And I had to do a lot of therapy when I realized all this. But in the back, there was this barn, quote unquote, but it was really like everybody knew it used to be an
Can
old.
you hold it up? Hold it up to the camera while you talk.
Okay.
Yeah,
It was
right there.
an old mental institution, and it had bars on the windows.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a shed back here that had on the upstairs that had all these hospital beds. And like, sometimes there would be like different kids back there that they kidnapped that they were torturing, and sometimes it would be like native kids that were being tortured back there. And I mean, I remember babies being back there. I don't know where they got these kids, but I remember going through the kidnapping.
Okay, why don't you describe what's inside that building that you're pointing at, that back behind the
This
house? Yeah, what is that? I mean, yeah, what's in there?
like in the early 70s, it used to be like all these hospital beds with kids. And I didn't go back there that much, but I remember going back there at least twice, and that there were kids in these beds. And one time I remember going back there and there's kids in these beds and we got pills. And one time I remember my fake dad carrying me when I'd already been age regressed, and all these babies were sick and dying in there. And my fake dad was really proud that I was like, he was carrying me like I'm not going to get sick or something. It was weird.
Well, okay, you can put it down now. You don't have to keep holding it. But so how many children were in that facility? Do you estimate at any given time?
Yeah, okay, so in the early 70s, when I was really still brainwashed, it makes you feel like a little kid. Like once they age regressed me and they just made you seem like you're stupid. So okay, I remember at first in the kitchen there were being like tables and kids in school, and then they moved all that out and there was just a circle table was supposed to be our family table. But they would still have the kids come in there sometimes, and still I kept asking them about the other kids, and I started asking them about my baby brother, and I think that's why he got kidnapped. But in the back there was always at first kids in hospital beds. Like how many? At least 20 or 30, at least, I would say. Maybe 30, 35, maybe
So
40.
where did you actually stay? What
I
was your
stayed in the
room?
main house. Yeah.
And why did they allow you to stay in the main house instead of put you back in with all the other kids?
I was wondering, and I've been really thinking about this. It might be because I'm really German in real life. And maybe that's why, I don't know. Because my fake brother that was kidnapped, I think he's German too. So maybe they like wanted some German
So
kids. I don't know if
can, can you talk a little bit about this brother? Because was he also re-aged? Was he from your other family, just like both of you were taken, or is it
Yeah,
from
we were
a
both
different?
taken. I think he was re-aged as well. He was kidnapped when he was about 4 or 5, and they age regressed him back into about a 2-year-old, and they also gave him some drugs to make him really like he was drooling all the time. And I was reading a long time ago, like 4 years ago, that some of the mind control drugs make you drool a lot, and he was famous for his drool. He would just have this string of drool that was unbreakable. Anyway, yeah, but he remembered a lot more than me. He would wake me up out of a lot of the program, and he would like go like this and be like, wake up, you got to remember this and stuff like that.
While you were in this house?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All
He
right.
was like, dad can hypnotize you and stuff like that.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the type of programming they did to you?
They did all kinds of crazy stuff. They would program me to be antisocial. Like when I got there, they would have me stick my fingers in this thing, and if they would be like, what happens if someone says this to you, like hello, and if I said hello or was social, I would get electroshocked. um I was electroshocked in those dentist chairs a lot. I don't know why. um they electroshocked me really bad. I have a picture of it I drew. I'm not sure what all the programming was. I don't have very good memories, but I have this one memory of, like, these are actually supposed to be people, their heads, but I couldn't. Sorry, these are supposed to be people, and they're electroshocked.
Those were the other kids, and that.
No, these are supposed to be adults that are electroshocking me, but all I could do is demon-like creatures because I couldn't. These are their heads, though.
Mhm.
Like they're demons, they're black demons, and this is me being electroshocked in a chair, just bleeding, but I would fly out of my body and I'd go sit on these like yellow beings right here. But I didn't know why they wouldn't just let me die, but they would have me like sitting here with them. They're like,
They wanted you to engage these beings, these etheric entities.
the programs.
Yeah, is that what they
I'm
were?
not sure. I think I might have told them about it because then we were talking about it and stuff.
So I mean, to me, it seems like they were trying to create altars.
Yeah. Oh my God, they were.
And have you ever been diagnosed with MPD, DID?
Um, well, I've had a lot. I'm like hoping that I had like 2 years with a lens neurofeedback therapy, and my therapist said it would work. I'm just really hoping, and I've done a lot of regrowing my brain with growth hormone and gold, drinking gold supplement for a couple years, and a lot of different
You mean
things.
colloidal gold?
Yeah, like mace, like micro. I don't know if I'm supposed to say it's the little one, little.
The nano or
Yeah,
meso?
yeah,
Oh,
nano
nano
gold.
gold. Okay.
And so I've been trying to regrow my brain. So I really hope that, because my fake mother actually tried to call me and ask me if I remembered a particular kidnapped girl. And I remember her going through my altars, and my higher self like resisted it. So I didn't like completely succumb. I actually lied and said I didn't remember her, and I do remember her. And so I think I'm rebuilding my brain, and but I had the freaking altars. It sucks to even think that, but I think I'm, with all the therapy and everything, I think hopefully I'm not as susceptible as I used to be. Let's hope.
So why don't you talk a little bit more about the demeanor? Because I know you first in this last image you showed us there were people there, but you mentioned that there was a parent, like a mother and father. So what did they allow other people to come in and analyze these sessions?
Yeah, it was really weird. Like they always had clipboards. Like my childhood, everybody always had clipboards. It was really bizarre. That's how I was raised, but you don't think of it when you're a kid. It's really hard to even say.
You don't go up to mom and say, "Well, why are you always taking notes on that clipboard?"
I did say it one time. I was about 8 or something in this timeline. I was like, "Whoa, you guys always have clipboards," and they were like, they jumped back, like, "Whoa!" Like,
Hmm. Did you ever
but
happen to sneak a peek on those clipboards and see what they were writing?
one time they had measurements of my fake brother, my kidnapped brothers and I's skulls. One time they did have that, and one time I remember seeing the word monarch, but to me it meant the monarch queen. Like it was heavily the Queen of England oriented too. Somehow.
Well, there is a super soldier queen who is associated with Monarch, and she's totally AI. But I don't know if
Really.
that I couldn't comment if that's associated with what you're dealing with. But what you're describing almost seems something that the Nazis would do with the eugenics program. Do you think there might be a connection there?
There were, see, in my, what I've realized with my memories, when I'm under a different altar and I'm in a different altar and I'm just following robotically what whoever's handling me, is telling me to do. What's made me wake up if something's out of place or out of program. So this one time I remember being in fight clubs and stuff and doing all kinds of stuff. But this one time they threw the pants on the bed, and they were Nazi pants with like the plumes, how they plume out on the thighs. They were like that, and they were white. And they told me to put them on. And the only reason I remember that is because there was a spot of blood on there. And they told me that I could never be with them again or whatever. Like nothing was ever going to be again if I didn't get that blood out. And the blood was still there. So from some violence. So I remembered that because I was like, wait a minute, this is like out of program. And so I remembered the Nazi pants. And I was trying to think of it today. I think I kind of remember the boots too, because I really was deprived of any nice clothing. And my real mom was really cute. She'd wear like cute gloves and like have cute purses. And like back then in the day, way back in the day, it was like this cute style they had. And I always looked up to my mom and the way she had her shoes and stuff. And so then now I'm living like a dirtbag bum, and this new childhood, they're treating me like a dirtbag. So like I remember the boots because they were shiny and black, and they had the leather came in the front like a curve. So I kind of do remember the boots. Like as of like yesterday and today, I was really starting to think like, can I remember what the rest of that uniform was? Anyway, I remember the pants for a long time. They were Nazi pants for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you recall any kind of Hitler Youth type rallies or anything like that?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Anything that might make you think they might be Nazis other than white pants?
The pants were Nazi pants.
Well, did you see any swastikas on them or and any uniforms or any flags? No?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, what about how about some of the tests and procedures they did to you? Do you recall anything unusual about anything out of the ordinary?
When I used to get electroshocked and I used to fly over all these cornfields and different kinds of fields, when I finally went to this satanic school, that everybody was getting I could show you a picture too of underneath the school. Everybody was getting programmed in the school. Oh, I had a picture of the waterboarding too. Here's a picture of the waterboarding. The kids would go, it was like this yellow wood, almost like a school seat or something. And this guy, he was a Nazi. I looked up these guys, and this guy was a Nazi that was looking like a hippie, letting his hair grow and having like civilian clothes. That's who I think it is. But anyway, can't name names. So grab a kid. It was all day. He'd do this for a couple of days. All these kids would be in line. This kid just got done. They would just go over and over and over and over. And then at first they would tell us, you're lazy. Like that's what they would tell us. You're lazy. As we're laying there just being like, just like on the ground and just getting waterboarded over and over. And then after like 4 hours of it, they'd be like, you're hot and tired. You're hot and tired. And so we'd just be like, oh, we're hot and tired, but we're not getting like waterboarded and drowned. And we were really getting waterboarded. And so this isn't my fake dad, but my fake dad was like a hypnotist, and he would make it so when I was getting waterboarded, I would think I was getting a lullaby. Like it would be like, oh, the greatest thing, like being rocked by this crazy big Nazi guy, rocked in a lullaby, like rocked to sleep. So I wasn't like really suffering. It was crazy. Like he would make it so I was like hypnotized through a lot of the torture. Oh, and then what else was I looking for? I have different pictures of what we're
Where did that take place? The waterboarding?
In our backyard of this horror farm. It took place over here.
Can you move? Yeah, let's see.
It took place over here. And I tried to ask him about it like 5 years later, I don't know, probably 5 years later in this timeline, which is like a long time in those timelines, with other timelines added in, I mean, and he just pummeled it with his backhoe. Here's a picture of in the school, underneath the school in the basement. We went to this satanic school, and they would shock us. I saw a picture of it on someone's YouTube video. It was called Satanic Hollywood or something like that. And they show the exact, it's a chair and it has like these balls on the arms that like you hold on to, and they shock you with different programs in your eyes. So you're getting programmed in your face. And they would have tables and tables and tables of these kids. Not, I mean, it was a small school, but there was a few tables of these kids, and they all had like these covers, like a computer cover over their heads so that they weren't getting disturbed by the other ones. And the ones in the front, these two girls would always pee their pants, and there would be pee on the electric lines. And these kids were all getting shocked, and like you could hear them like quivering and crying and shaking when you walked in. It was just like all these kids quivering and crying and shaking and getting like zapped under the school.
Did that happen to you?
Yeah,
Go through
yeah.
that?
I was getting down there to do that. Yeah. What?
And you saw things in your eyes? Were your eyes
They
closed?
would show us like a virtual reality or something to like program us at the same time, and then we'd be getting shocked to get.
And this was
programmed.
back in the mid 70s?
Yes, under a
Huh.
scope.
And was the virtual reality simulations extremely advanced, or did they look very rudimentary?
I don't remember anything about. I just remember walking into that room a lot, and then I remember like what I remember being late. I remember like passing out in the school hallway and being late for the bus and missing the bus a few times and everything. Like it was a totally like satanic school.
But
I
was it
remember walking in that basement of this. I remember walking in, and
but was it like was it a full color headset, or was it just like LED blinking lights? Do you recall?
oh, I believe it was like a movie that you could watch, a full cover movie that was programming you. That's what
But I mean, that they must have been using some kind of classified technology, because in the mid 1970s they wouldn't even have flat screen technologies. They would do the CRT.
Oh, I saw them. I was at a satanic ritual on this property of the farm, and in the front, I don't know why I popped into gear of remembering where it was, but I was in the back, and in the front, all the kids were like getting passed out iPads, and that was in the early 70s. They all wanted the iPad. They all wanted the iPad. I don't know what they were calling it. It might have been iPad, but all I know is they wanted it. They wanted it, and they all got it, and it all had. I remember thinking it had an evil glow, like eerie, like all the kids. It was dark. It was like a satanic ritual, and they were all in the front, and they all had it, and it was like glowing eerily to me at the time. They had flying scooters.
They allowed you to be on these flying scooters?
No, my friend. Okay, so there were two groups of adults. There were two families that came and visited the farm. One was a Montauk, famous Montauk boy family, which was a mad scientist, or maybe it was his clone, because I don't know what. But and then on the other side there was the Nazi guy that I told you, the big Nazi guy that used to drown us and that watched the guy die on the moon and all that stuff. That Nazi guy, his son, he is part of the Space Force, and they run things like I remember one time. This is totally off subject, but my fake brother got pissed and like tore out the controls, or wrecked somehow, made this little shuttle kind of flyer space, kind of like these little things you fly around. Well, he tore out the controls of it, and we were stuck there. And they came up and rescued us. And he was flying it's like a water scooter, but it was in the air, and it was fatter, and it was white. And he said, we're part of the Space Force. And I was like, yeah. And then as we left there, I said, Dad, to my fake dad, I said, Dad, what was he? The something force? And then my dad goes, the Earth Force. And then after that, I couldn't remember again. And I was like, what was that again? And then he wouldn't tell me, but it was the Space Force, what they were. I remember now. They came and rescued us.
I mean, Space Force was set up by Donald Trump. Is this
I don't know. This was like in the 70s. So.
Huh.
But
but I'm sorry. Where did you say that he was flying this scooter around? Where did it?
I saw it in Ottawa, above the house. Like this is a rooftop, and he was flying it way up here in the sky.
Huh.
And he kept waking me up. I was like, I had to unload something out of a car over and over. He kept on like saying one of my cue words above me and waking me up so I would see it.
Your
Because he
Q,
was my buddy. He was
your
my
Q
friend. It was
words?
the Nazi guys.
Did you say your Q words?
Yeah, he would wake me up so I remembered seeing him in the air. Because he
Oh,
was my friend. He turned out to be my boyfriend. And then we were
and so this was your surrogated brother that later became your.
No, this was the Nazi guy's son.
And did he stay in the house too?
No.
He was in the
No,
back?
they lived in the city.
Oh, so they just came to let you visit.
They lived in Ottawa. Yeah, we lived out on the farm.
And was his farm also in Ottawa as well?
No, it was about an hour away from there. So
Okay.
yeah, he was my buddy. And his dad was that gnarly Nazi guy. And he would always wake me up, and he would always be like with the dentist chairs that electrocute you with the things that hold your teeth, they'd always like wake me up and go, do you remember what these are for? Do you remember what these are for? And I'd be like, no. And then I'd get off the dentist chair and the next kid would come. And then he would always go, you remember what those are for? Or like, he would, I forgot now. He would always remind me of different things. Like he would, he told me a million times that his parents were kidnappers, and he would show me this big closet full of bassinets just stacked up to the ceiling. Anyway, he'd always be telling me the truth all the time. I think he was the Nazi guy's genetically engineered son, to tell you the truth, because he could build weapons and he could build crazy stuff. So
All right. So where do you want to go take this next? What other experiences did you want to share?
I was in I have two distinct moon memories. When I first got there, they have a thing that they stick out. They can make fake monoliths too, as well. That's part of my story. They'll go around and make fake monoliths, and they have this thing, and it just reminds me of like an energy pitchfork or a hand or something. They could stick out and move major rocks with it. And they also have mind control. So anyway, when we first got to the moon, I remember that kid that I was friends with, he was older than me, and they lived in a different city. They lived out in the country, and so he had like these hockey team friends. I swear I thought it was them, but all those guys jumped over a huge crater. And then his younger brother, and I think my brother did too, I'm not sure, my fake kidnapped brother. And I was sitting there and I was so intimidated. And then I heard my fake dad. I don't know if it was voice to skull, or I don't know if it was just he could talk to me, but he was just like, he made it so he levitated me over the crater, and he was like, it's okay, just, you can do this, and I'm like, whoa, don't lift me over this crater. I'm like lifted up over the crater going, whoa. And then I just had to follow those guys. I was at the end of the pack, and I had to follow those guys romping over. And then another moon memory I have is I drew it, and I remember I used to go back to this place all the time. And I remember there were flags. And I remember asking my fake dad what the flags were so I could remember it later. And he was just like, yeah, right, you're not going to remember this. But they had little flags sticking right here. Like little, I would say like American and French or whatever. I don't know what
Can you do that? Yeah. Let's look at that a little bit closer. So move it over a bit the other way so we can see it. And where's the flag?
I didn't draw them. I forgot. But okay, so these, those little tiny flags you can just have. They had like little country flags right here, like sticking right here. I'm not kidding. Because I remember climbing into there. I remember now that we went in there at least 3 or 4
What is that? What are we
Okay,
looking at here?
so this is on the moon. And there's about 40 feet right in here, but I didn't draw it like that. So this is a tube, and we were already somewhere else. Like we might have been on Mars. I don't know what. And okay, so we were flying through the tube. Right here, I was flying through with my fake dad. I was flying through, and he looks like a crazy hippie. And he's carrying me, and I'm already age regressed, so he's carrying me. And we're going flying through this tube. And my fake dad goes, we're going to get to see how the moon works. Okay, James Rink, that's what my fake dad said. He said,
So
we're going to get to see how the moon works. Okay, so then we get to the moon.
is that like a teleportation machine?
It was like a tube that we were, as far as I know, and I don't know anything, we were getting sucked through a tube. Like, you know, in the Jetsons cartoon? I have so much of that, and they were using TV to, the only TV I was allowed to watch were certain things that were totally replicas of what I was going through. And in fact, when we were up in space, my fake dad would sometimes go, we're going to have to go back to the Flintstones now. We're going to have to go back to the Flintstones, because that meant we're going to have to go back to Earth. But there was these tubes, and we go shooting through them. And then we popped out right here, and there's this guard right here, very tall and stern looking, and you had to hit him, like boom. And then we drifted over here like 40 feet, and then there was this fake rock covering, and then there was this underground area, and there's this little ladder, and we went down, and the Nazi guy basically watched someone Earth die too.
So you got ejected out onto the surface of the moon and had to go back down to
Yes.
the base? And
I distinctly remember that. I never got mind wiped from that. And I asked my fake dad when we were back down on the farm. There was a few times where I took him outside, like they were doing some programming, and for some reason we were outside because it was very strict. We were never outside at night, and we were outside at night, and the moon was out, and I would drag him over across the yard, and I'd be like, "Dad," because I called him Dad. I didn't know he wasn't my dad because I was so programmed, and I was like, "Dad, remember when you said we're going to go see how the moon works, and we were up there on the moon, and we saw that guy die on the screen and all this," and he'd just be like he got so mind wiped, his jaw would drop, and he would just be like he looked like an android, like he couldn't even answer or remember anything when I was asking him. But I was like, "Don't you remember? We saw how the moon works. The moon is fake, and they can see you die." I have a lot of. It's really. I don't want to be negative, but.
okay, okay. But do you recall how you actually got from the farm onto the moon? The process involved in that?
No, but I remember, I think the first time I was on the moon and they had us jumping over the craters and they lifted me over the crater and I was really scared. I think that must have been the first time that I was on the moon. Maybe.
Okay, so all right. So what else do you have in there?
Oh, in here, I have. Oh, then when we went down inside that underground moon base, there was this little tiny TV screen way up on the wall, and it had like these like prisms that came out of it, and you could see this guy on Earth walking by some grass on a sidewalk, and you could watch him die. This guy, the guy that was always mean to me or whatever, he like pushed everybody else out of the way, and he wanted to see this guy die, and he could watch him from the moon. He could watch this guy die on Earth from every different angle. The guy was like, I think he was getting shot, and he was like dying, and you could see him from this angle, from this angle, from this angle. You could see this guy die from every angle, and I was so scared that he was going to do that to me one day because he was always so interested in me. I just looked down and I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to do that to me one day. Like, I was so scared.
Well, what is his connection with you? Was he like your handler? Or?
He tortured the shit out of me. I think he was actually running the farm, but they didn't let us know that, but that's what I believe. He was always torturing us, and he brought me to Montauk at least once, I remember. And
did you actually recall seeing him at the farm?
oh yeah, he visited there all the time because I was raised with his son that I told you had the flying thing. He was like one of my only friends. The Montauk boy with the crazy scientist and him with that boy that went into the Space Force were the only ones that came and visited my farm. And they visited about once a month each. And it was a big deal. It was like, because we lived out there with no people, supposedly. So it was like, our friends are here. And me and that boy, the Space Force boy, we would just run and just have all these adventures. And I think we were doing the same thing on Mars. I know we were. I had memories.
Well, I was wondering, did anyone ever show up at the farm by accident? Maybe like a postal worker or somebody, I don't know, maintenance person, and saw that there's a bunch of kids there? And did anyone?
So the only time I remember seeing the group of kids was like before 1973. And after that, I was there till 1979. and it was only me, my fake brother. But there was another kidnapped kid, and she kept escaping out of the barn. And she escaped to the neighbor's house once, and the neighbor lady was told she was an orphan, and the lady said she wanted to adopt her. And then I think the cops showed up, and my fake mom had me and my brother coloring like right by the front door, like in this different front door that we didn't usually use. um anyway, she had us sitting out there, and like we were all normal, and they were looking for her. I'm not sure what happened to her. um
So
this
they're
kid.
trying to they try to keep this facade, and the police didn't investigate, didn't suspect anything.
No, in fact, when I figured out who I was, I called the police, and they were, I don't know,
They didn't show up.
they didn't believe me. They didn't even want to deal with it. I told them I wanted to put my DNA in, and they said there was no DNA. And then I got a hold of my real brother, and he said there was DNA. But it's hard to tell someone, okay, so I was age regressed. That is the freaking truth, okay? And you can't tell someone, it's just hard. Like, I don't want to break anyone's heart.
Especially, so
Can you
when you
imagine?
were were you a child when you called the cops when this took place?
No, just recently.
Oh, well, yeah, you can't expect them. They don't believe in this stuff. But
No.
do you have any idea what happened to all those other children at that farm, the 23 or so kids, or roughly? And
Okay, so I know that a lot of the Native American kids were being fed to the pigs, and there was another pig farm that was by the school. And I remember there being Native Canadian kids. I keep saying Native American kids, but Native kids. And all the mothers showed up, and we were told to go. There was the kid that lived there, Kim. We were told to go run across the street into this graveyard. It was like the school, the graveyard, and her house, the pig farm, and all these mothers showed up crying and sobbing over it. Like, I think it was their kids that were being fed to the pigs. It was gnarly. It was like in the early 70s. And then the other kids that were like kidnapped regular kids, I don't know. I don't know, but I went back there when I was like 18 or 19, and they had other little kids in there. And these people had clipboards, and they were like, "Oh, they seem to be fine." And then I was like, I used to live here. I didn't even realize. I didn't even have any of my memories back of it, of the clip. I just didn't even. I was just like all romanticized, like, oh, I lived on a farm, and I'm gonna go see this farm. And I brought my boyfriend, and we went and saw this farm, and had all these people with clipboards and all these kids, and they were like, oh, they're fine. And then they were like, oh, she used to live here. And they were like, what? And then they put their clipboards behind them and like put them down. And it was like really bizarre. And then I think they started saying my keywords. And my boyfriend like had this way of putting his eyes in my eyes, and he just like snuggled me real close and said, let's go. And he put his eyes in my eyes, and I like popped out of whatever they were saying. I mean, I don't think it was that, we were already downstairs. I don't think it was that much danger. I think they were just messing with me to see what I would do, because it must be fun to have someone's programs or whatever,
wow.
keywords. That's
So after that, did you start getting triggered and getting your memories back?
No, that was when I was like 18 or 19, and I didn't get my memories back until like about 4 years ago. I always remember being age regressed. I always remembered that being on the moon thing. The age regression was always in my head. The moon thing kind of faded out like a memory, but I always like, if I just thought of it, I don't know. Some memories fade out just with time, but some of them your mind wiped, and those ones were the ones that came back so hard. Like, I have horrible memories of just like being hit and beaten. And they talk about those rooms. Okay, I'll tell you something. I was so starving. This is gross. Okay, I was so starving, and I was trying to prove a point. First, I started eating my hair. And they have those rooms that they tell you they beat the crap out of you, and there's probably blood and guts everywhere, and then they hose it down. When they were hosing it down, I started like eating. Like, I was so freaking hungry. I was like eating the like guts of my own, or I don't know. I mean, that was so bad. That's how bad it was. I mean, I was raised like so bad, so bad. What was the question?
Did you actually witness children dying? around
Oh,
you?
I remember the one time that my fake dad walked me through the back barn and there were kids dying. And that was really early. That was like before 1973. I know there was kids dying back there.
And so did
That's
so so as far as the bodies, you said they put them in that cemetery near the property?
there was a cemetery between the school and this other pig farm, and the bodies, I'm not sure. The only time I know I actually saw kids dying was when my dad walked me through the barn. I wasn't like, privy to see so many illegal things because they were trying to program us like we were a real family.
Hmm.
So
Would you be willing to go up back to this location? Maybe I could come with you. We can film where the cemetery is, the school, and this farmhouse if it's still there.
it'd be interesting because I know the car I was kidnapped in. I know where they have it buried. But
So maybe bring some ground penetrating radar and try to see if we can locate some skeletons in there. Or
I know.
is this something you want to investigate?
Yeah,
Do you think they're still at this house experimenting on children?
I was told not to go. I was told that like we were so romanticized. It was this red brick farmhouse and everything, and I was told that it was redone and it wasn't the same anymore, or something like that. Like, oh, I shouldn't even go there because it's not the same anymore, and or they took the barn off and they put lame re-siding on it or something, and it looked not as cool anymore. Whatever bullshit, trying to tell me not to go in there anymore. Um, it would be interesting to get like some DNA testing. Um,
So what, you want to be tested to compare yourself to your family members?
no, I mean back here. I remember I used to be obsessed with picking the teeth out of cow skulls that they had back here. I'm wondering if I don't know. I would, but it's hard to talk to people that okay, so they're in their 60s and 70s and they have broken their heart over their kidnapped sister. And they're very straight and old and straight laced, okay? And like and just being able to talk to my younger brother again was so healing. I would talk to him on the phone and I talked to him on the internet and I was saying that I was my daughter, or I was saying that I was saying that I was her daughter and that she was messed up because I couldn't explain the age regression thing. Do you know what I mean?
I'm a
Like
little
how can you break someone's heart and go, oh, they're not going to want to hear that. They're going to be like, you're some crazy chick from the internet. Like they will never for sure be able to, with their hearts, believe
who
it's
is
really
this? Who
me.
is this you're talking to?
I talked to my younger brother who is
Was
60.
he at the house with you?
No, he was not kidnapped. He was my real brother before.
So
Like,
eventually they put you back into your old life.
no, they never did.
So how did you find your original brother?
I found him on the internet.
You remembered his name?
I remember my name. I saw my kidnapped pictures and a picture of my mother that looks so strikingly like me when I was 14 that I thought it was a psyop. I
Hmm?
honestly did. On one of those heritage.coms or whatever. And I obsessed for at least a year straight, just like for hours at night, like looking at all the people with the last name of my last name. Some, of course, aren't even part of the family because different people have the same last names. But
So there was a
um,
point when your face actually went onto one of those milk cartons. Have you seen me back in the 70s?
oh my gosh. Okay, so when we moved to California, we would go to this military base all the time by Tracy, California. And this one really nice military guy, he was really like, we would be walking out. I don't remember what they did to us in there. All I remember is in the morning, we'd be eating, those cereal boxes that you cut open the cereal and you pour the milk inside? It's like for when you're traveling. I don't know. Is that an old fashioned thing? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like from the unorganic cereal?
Mm.
Well, they had those in the army barracks, and we would get those and we'd be eating. So I'm all about food, right? So I remember the food. So we were eating that, and we were eating, and I always remember walking out, and this one army guy would always walk out with us, and he was really nice, like sunshiny, blonde hair, and he'd be like, oh, that's so sad. You guys got to check the cereal boxes or check the milk cartons, Like, you guys got to check the milk. So it was like a ritual. It was sick ritual, sick in a bad way. It was a sick ritual in the morning when we go to school, we eat our cereal, like on this milk cartons, how it would have the missing children. Like, it was our ritual to check the cartons, and we didn't even know why we were checking them. We didn't even know why. We were so brainwashed. We didn't even know why that was a thing. That army guy was like, oh, that's so sad. You guys got to check the milk cartons. Like,
Did he see you on one of these cartons?
I think he was directing that at my little brother, my kidnapped brother, because he looked more the age. I think they were only I think they only age regressed him like 2 years, and the age regressed me like 8 years. Like, no, it would have been if I was like 15 down to 2, like, 13 years was horrible. Like, they shrunk me. There's no way to forget about that.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. They were telling us check the mailboxes, and we were so brainwashed we didn't even know that was why we were doing it, because we were kidnapped. So bad.
Oh, so this is when you were with that embedded family?
That was when we already moved to California now, and we were like I was in junior high, and my little brother was like 10 or something.
Okay. All right. Did you have any other pictures or drawings you wanted to show the audience members?
They had me programmed to where, I don't know if I ever told you this, but they had me, I swear to God, I won a trophy for my dad at this Nazi guy's fight club because he could hypnotize me. I remember going into one altar, and we walked through the fighting. There was like a ring, and they were fighting, but it was like someone's garage. And we walked through, and there was a contest, and those bricks that are white and they look like the letter 8. I could break those with my hand. I remember being programmed for it with a little black and white TV. My fake dad would just show me a guy doing it with wood, like karate chops and with bricks, or whatever they were doing it on a black and white TV. And he would tell me it was glass and I could do it. And I broke this little, I want to show you this little girl with a Nazi haircut. That was me. And this little girl could break those, what do you call those bricks? They're like big white gray bricks,
The cinder blocks?
Cinder blocks, those big things. I could break this little girl under a program could break those. That is the truth. I would take a lie detector. And also I could joust. We would go in this place, and these guys would have these red masks, and we would joust, and then he would click me out of that altar, and I'd be sitting on the side, and I'd be like, I want to joust, Dad. I want to joust. I want to learn how to do that. And everybody there looked at him like he was crazy, and then I was crazy because I just got done winning. I was just like, they had me in this altar of like I don't want to sound like egotistical or anything, but they would put me back in other past lives, and I swear they had me in a Buddhist past life and a samurai past life, maybe in a few different past lives. So I came out there like a samurai warrior. And I pretty much it's not levitating, it's just being able to just, I don't know, I just zenned out and just would like win. I remember winning with the joust. I remember having it and being like, I won against this guy, and I would beat him as a little kid. And then I would sit on the sidelines, and they had like red carpet, and the guy was wearing red and had like a red mask to protect him. And I'd be like, Dad, I want to learn that, because I really wanted to do it. It was like a huge thing. So I'm like, I really want to do that. I really want to do that. I want to learn how to do that. What do you call this? I want to learn how to do that. And they would just look at him like I was the most crazy. Like I must have been a crazy lunatic. And we'd leave. We'd leave. Because that's how brainwashed I was. That's so bad. But I would win money they would make money off me all these different ways.
Have any of these abilities ever accidentally come out in the current modern era?
I remember my fake mother being so scared because there was what do they call it when on TV they have like the same show over and over? For Halloween they had Carrie, and that's the one where the
reruns.
Huh?
The reruns?
Yeah, the reruns when they do it over and over. I don't watch TV anymore, it's bad, but so yeah, where the girl Carrie like would shoot all the like tick on the knives of the kitchen. My fake mother was so scared, she was like walking around the couch like looking at me like, oh my gosh, you shouldn't be watching that. So I was really controlled over what I was watching on TV. But at that point, I was like 12 or 13. So I was just watching it, and they didn't have any control. I just turned it on. So because it was trying to be normal, so I could go turn my TV on by the time I was 12 or 13. Otherwise, I'd be like, why do I live in such a weird? It was already so disciplined and so crazy that
This was at the farmhouse.
that was when I was already moved to California. I moved to California when I was 10 in this
So
timeline.
so you left the farmhouse, moved to California.
The whole family did. The whole fake family.
So who was do you know who was responsible for taking over the farm? Did they put somebody new in there?
That's a good question. But I know I went back there and they had like 4 or 5 little kids. And they had people with clipboards telling me they look fine. And then they were like, realized I actually was raised there. And yeah. But no,
Maybe
I don't know.
maybe for Christmas you can get your mom a crisp clipboard and see what her reaction would be.
I know I don't even know if she's not part human or something. Because she doesn't have the most she would feel from something like this would be like embarrassment. Like she doesn't have the same compassion. And I want to say that I keep hearing all these people that we're in SRA and all these different things. Like maybe you were kidnapped, because I honestly thought these were my real parents up until 4 years ago.
And do you think you were an SRA?
Satanic, yeah, there was those satanic rituals where the kids had the iPads, and I remember also going to another satanic ritual at this old abandoned church. So we would always pass on our bus going by. It was this old white, like one room, old fashioned church. And there was a satanic ritual in there I remember going to at night. And I remember a kid got killed. I think it was a little black kid, which is horrible. And
And
and these
did
other,
you know how he died? Do you remember seeing him die?
I remember seeing the little kid. There was a bunch of kids, and I guess the adults were around, but the kids were in the front. And this one kid was wearing white, and was holding the black kid's hand, and they all were looking down, and they kind of like pushed him down into. I don't remember anything else after that.
Did you hear any screams or see any blood or anything like that? Not to be too
I
graphic.
just know he died, and there was blood.
Okay. And why were they doing that? What did they gain, you think?
Hierarchy, or teaching kids about hierarchy. I'm not sure.
Like they can be empowered through killing?
Hmm.
That they're better than other races? A racial kind of thing? Purity?
I don't think it was a racial thing, because I think it was equal opportunity. They would torture white kids too, but I think that treating others really meanly and putting them down or killing them is a definite thing that the hierarchy can do. That's
Yeah,
what
but you don't seem like a very mean or cruel person. So none of
Thanks.
this stuff doesn't seem like it's stuck with you.
I
Um,
appreciate that. I was like a robot my whole life. Like people that know me, like if anyone ever sees this, um, all through my school, I was a robot. Everyone knows that. I was like, people felt sorry for me. I was basically a robot.
what do you mean by
Um,
robot? Can you describe that?
like I had no personality. I was completely
Was
just,
your voice very monotone?
maybe not that, but I had a monotone personality. Like you could say the funniest shit, and I would either tense up or I would not get the joke. Or maybe I would get it in some part of my mind. I'd be like, "It's funny," but I was so programmed to. They programmed me not to laugh. That was one of the programs. I would get electroshock. So I was like a robot. I was like a monotone personality. Like after all the therapy of the lens, it's like I really suggest this lens neurofeedback. It takes care of PTSD. I'm able to relax and release and have a sense of humor. Having a sense of humor involves having trust that no one's gonna electroshock me. So I was always like blank. Like I couldn't laugh. I didn't know how to talk. Like if there was a bunch of group of people, I wouldn't be able to engage and like talk in a flowing. I was programmed to be antisocial. So I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. So I'm so happy to be able to be a normal person again. I really have changed a lot with all that therapy. Like I feel like I can be genial, with people, and be like, before I couldn't. I was so disassociated too. and so used to just being in pain that I just didn't even know what normal was for a long time.
Okay, can you explain, maybe show us some more of those drawings that you've done? Was there any other drawings you wanted to show us?
Oh my God, here's the picture. This, I don't know if you'll see it though. I forgot I even drew this. It's so light. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like the school was up here. The school I went to was up here, and then there was this graveyard, and then there was a pig farm right here. And I swear there was like dead kids being poured into the graveyard from the school because they do all those tests underneath the school.
So you saw like an open pit grave?
No, I didn't see any grave. No, no, it was a regular graveyard. I
Oh,
didn't see
okay.
anything suspicious, but I did see them feeding, I think, kids. It was pink slop off the back of a pickup truck, and all these Indian mothers came, and they were like protesting, and more came, and we were told to go play in the. Me and this other little girl lived there. We were told to go play up in the graveyard because we heard these mothers. I remember just Kim wanted to play hide and seek like we always did, and I had to sit there, and I was hiding because these women were wailing in sorrow and pain. I'll never forget it. I think they were feeding the slop was the kids for sure.
Did
They
it look
were
like meat?
wailing. Huh?
Did it look like meat?
It looked like pink. Pink is
Flesh?
what it is. It's flesh and blood, yeah. And they were feeding that to them at our house too.
Well, how did these women know that these children were?
That's a good question. I don't know, because I know that they were taking a lot of kids back then to these like homes, like boarding schools. I read about this. I tried to research it myself, and my memories first started coming back. There was these ones run by the Queen up there in Ontario, where they would take all the Native American kids. This is horrible. And they would put them in these freaking schools, and they would do all these tests on them, experiment on them, and all the time, and kill them. So maybe part of the tribe heard about something and followed them. I don't know. But they were wailing at the top of their lungs.
Have you tried to reach out to any of the tribe members in that area? Maybe ask them what they.
I thought about it heavily. I didn't think of that. I thought of one of these the actual guy that actually kidnapped me was actually running a deaf school for deaf kids. And then that's when I first found out, and I was so overwhelmed I couldn't do anything about it. And then 2 years later, I tried to look him up again, and it turns out he wasn't doing that anymore. He was piggybacking on the back of these Native American tribes. That's what they do. They try to say, oh, you're not doing this right, or oh, we're going to help you in this way or that. And so that's when I really wanted to get a hold of them. Oh, this is some technology my fake mother had in the kitchen. She called it the magic mirror, and it had all this like electricity. It was like a regular hand mirror, like black hand mirror, and all this electricity was gray and black and white, and it was like sticking out of the mirror, like the mirror, and was like sticking out like this. And she would talk into the mirror, and whatever she said into the mirror would like come out of the TV. I don't know if that was just some mind control or whatever, but you had to stare at this mirror, and you could see the energy would go like calmer. And I think we were supposed to see the future out of it. I was remote viewing in my kitchen all the time.
So you could actually like a looking glass technology, where you could look into the future with that thing.
I think that's what it was.
And
I mean, I don't know for sure, but it was like that. And they had a thing like also that, like in school where you pull down I don't know if this is too old, but they pull down the projector screen. It's like an unrolly thingy. Well, it was like that. And it was like that too. That kind of energy is kind of like.
And what did you see?
It was kind of like, the one that they pulled down, I actually saw a tall gray alien come out of there and give them some instructions. And
it actually came out of this mirror that you were holding?
No, out of that pull down thing. It was like a screen that you pull down.
Oh.
And it was like that energy. It's like energy. It's like lightning, a whole bunch of it. Or like a TV, with those old fashioned TVs, and it wouldn't be the right channel. It would be all like buzzing like that. It was like that, except for it was 3D and less black and kind of waterish somehow.
So it was probably some kind of portal where beings could pass through.
Yep.
And where did you see this tall gray?
I only saw him one time coming out of it. He gave him something, and he
They
left.
actually went inside the house in the
Yeah,
farmhouse.
it came in through that pull down thing in the kitchen, and it was only in there for like a second, and gave him something and left.
And did it did and you saw it like
Yeah,
clearly? And
yeah,
did it make eye contact with you?
no,
Gauge you and all?
and that would have been really scary if it did it. It did.
Were you scared at all when seeing
I
it?
was really scared. Yeah, if it would have looked at me, I probably would have died of a heart attack. It
And
was very official. It was tall. It had a big head, but it was tall. It wasn't like the short ones. It was tall and skinny, and just it looked. It just only looked at them. It looked very just. I'm trying to say like official or mean or like just you wouldn't want to bother it. You wouldn't want to get its attention. Anyway, it came in and looked all serious. It gave them something it needed, and then turned around and left. Like it was very official. Like you didn't. I didn't want to talk to it. I
and
was on the inside of the kitchen, and it
so
came.
who was it interacting with?
My fake mom,
And
my fake dad was there.
and
But
what was her reaction with this
she was
creature?
happy to get whatever she needed that from them.
She didn't look terrified.
No, no, she's in charge of some crazy stuff.
And
Yeah.
do you think it's possible you might have got to the moon through that technology?
I don't know how we got to the moon. I
Hmm.
wish I could remember more because I'll tell you what, I ran away from home when I was 16 in this timeline and I came back and they had this artist guy hypnotize me. And the guy had books, like big, thick books of things I would tell him to draw when I was under. And I didn't even know it because I was being brainwashed. But he would draw fighter ships going through planets and all these different things. And the guy would always wake me up from the memory going, kaleidoscope eyes, you've been to some crazy places. And that was how he'd wake me up. And then he'd show me the book and he'd have me look through it and he'd go, do you remember this, do you remember this? And I'd be like, no. I thought he was just an artist showing me his pictures, and it was stuff I was telling him to draw, but I don't remember any of it at this point. It's hard because I don't really want to remember, because 2 years ago I almost died of so many memories that I had the neurofeedback therapy and I don't have to deal with a crash of memories. And so I don't want to go back to that. It's like such a peaceful, calm feeling I've had now for a couple of years that I don't really want to dive back into the memories yet. Maybe in like 5 years or 4 years, but
Well,
just being peaceful.
what kind of effects was it causing when you had this flood of memory? How was that
It was
affecting your life?
horrible. I don't know. I almost died of just the memories.
Were they, I mean, were they like primarily traumatic memories?
hmm Yeah. Like I would be like outside working on my greenhouse, and all of a sudden I'd like have a memory of getting hit in the head with a baseball bat, like traumatic. And then I'd have like memories of my parents and like just a whole bunch of trauma. Like I realized that my brother was kidnapped, and oh man, just everything. I was just like,
Okay, so we're back. I don't even remember. What was the last thing we talked you said before?
oh, I think you were telling me to go through the pictures.
Okay. Why don't you, yeah. Well, so what do you have right there?
There's this really gnarly thing that happened that um it tells about the DNA tech they had. Um, this is a picture of my Nazi dad with this DNA skin. It was some sort of thing. What happened was there was a terrible thing that happened to me. The crazy big fat Nazi guy one day decided, I don't know if it's because I always wanted to eat and I was always hungry on these missions or whatever, but he decided to turn me into a squirrel or a chipmunk or something like that. This is unbelievable. He drilled holes in my cheeks up through my head, all like he drilled these little, I don't know, he was psycho. So he's sitting there drilling so that I could put food in there or something. And then my fake dad shows up and he always was the little nerdy guy, and he freaked out and pushed him off me. And they might have been doing the same thing to my little brother. And he sat there, my fake dad, and he repaired me with these thin pieces. They were like square. I mean, they were like rectangle, and they looked like they were off-white color, and they were like pieces of DNA. And he would put them in over and over and over again. And he would be like crying, and he'd be putting them in. And I never got a cavity in my life. Like everything. And I went to the dentist all the time. But they repaired me, and this is when they had them that were shaped rectangle, and then these ones I just put like as if they were the teeth, but they were thin, and he was replacing everything with it. It was thin, rectangle. And it was like, at the airport when you order sushi in those little sushi boxes, and there's that flat Japanese eggs that you don't eat because it's like it's not eggs, but it's supposed to be some kind of. It's like that, like the porousness of the not the super porous, but the little tiny holes. It's like that, but not that color. It's like a cream color, and it's like a little porous like that, and it's thin, and it's like DNA something, and they were putting it in to repair my head. I'm not kidding. I know that sounds really crazy, but it's
did it
true.
hurt?
It really hurt. When I remember going through it, I was out of my body, and I remember going and getting like a head golden person of those beings, those angels. I'm not kidding. I went and got a head one and came and brought her. She had some kind of star in her head, and she was like this yellow being, and I brought her over, and I was like, look what they're doing to me, like that, like out of my body. I had so many out of my body experiences. Like I was completely out of my body. I was disassociated my whole life, but I can get really in touch with deities really easily.
What did this being say after you showed them your body?
She didn't say anything.
Well,
That's what I don't understand. She's just kind of like, she was kind of bigger. Like, it kind of almost reminded me of a nurse. Maybe that's what, in my mind, my child mind, she was like a yellow being with a star in her head. And to me, kind of reminded me of a nurse. And I said, look what they're doing to me. And that's basically the memory ends right there, but I don't remember. She didn't. It's like, that's what kind of turned me into agnostic. I'm like, what are all these people, what are all these beings doing, making this kid suffer like this? Why couldn't I just die, kind of thing? But I'm not agnostic anymore. I'm like, whatever. I drew this picture, but I didn't finish it. You won't be able to see it. It's how you feel when you've been out of your body, when you've been age regressed back into it's like an aura picture. I'll have to finish it and show you or something, but it's like how your aura feels when you haven't been living that same timeline for a couple beats. But it's too light. You won't be able to see it. Torture. I think that's all the pictures I have that I drew so far. Oh my gosh. There's no way I can prove this, but this is a clone. The only way I can tell between her and the other one is she looks really dumb. Like her eyes, like she was really dumb. If you look at her. If you look at the expression in her eyes.
Yeah, but
that's a clone, I swear. I don't know.
Clone of who?
Okay, so the two different groups of people that came over, the Nazi with the boy that was like turned into my boyfriend with the flying thing, those guys, okay? And then the other group was this Montauk boy, who if I said his name, we would all know him. Okay, so his mother was a clone of my mother. And even if you read his stuff, he says his mother didn't have an umbilical cord or a belly button or something. I'm like, well, is that because she was a clone? Because this woman was a clone of my fake mother. I'm not kidding, okay? It was a clone because all the kids knew it was a clone, and they would let this clone like babysit us. Like they'd be back in the barn doing whatever they were doing. I mean, they could have been doing drugs, it could have been abusing kids, it could have been who knows what they were doing back there, but they would leave us kids, the ones that were supposed to be, there were kids in the back, but the ones that, like me and my little brother and the kid that you saw flying in the thing and the Montauk boy, they'd all be heckling her. They'd be like, you're just a clone, you're just a clone. And she was so dumb. She would just be like cowering in the chair like this. And normally we were getting beat. And so it was a big change for me. I'd look at the kids and go, she's just a what? What's that word? What are you guys saying? And she was so dumb. And also they would have her have orgies with us, and she'd be really soft. Like my fake mother would always try to hurt me all the time, and she would be really soft. Other than that, she was really dumb. You could just tell. And they would ask me, how can you tell? How can you tell it's her? And there would be this little glimmer of like blue in her eye. Like I could see that it was really, you could just tell it was artificial. It was too bright, and you could see it. and they diminished that down to a little slice, but then I stopped admitting that that's how I could tell, because I started realizing maybe I shouldn't tell them that I could tell. But another way is that she was just really dumb. If you look at this picture,
How did you get
her
that?
eyes, you can see she's just like, duh.
Yeah, but where'd you get that picture from? Was that from your
Okay, because my
family
fake
albums?
dad, that was a photographer, had a series of these pictures of my real mom and this fake clone, and the real mom and the fake clone, and a real mom and the fake clone in this scrapbook that we had. And the real mom is drinking the tea too, just like this. And they have their hair dyed differently, like this. She's got kind of streaks going this way, and the other one had streaks like along the bottom of highlights. And but the fake mom that was a real human, she was like drinking her tea, reading the newspaper, and looking all smart in each one of the pictures of like drinking the tea and putting the tea down. It was like these successions of pictures. And this clone is just looking stupid. I can't prove it, but that's a clone right there. She's even got moles, but she's got different moles, they would say, than my real mom. But it was a clone.
And
And the kids would heckle her, and she would just cower. Like, they'd be like, you're just a clown, you're just a clown. And she'd be like in the chair just like going like this, when normally us kids were so beat down. Like, I never saw it like that unless they left
what?
us with her.
What? Yeah, but what was the point of doing that? Why would they introduce a clone to the household?
So the Montauk boy would come over with one of the mad scientists and the fake mom, and they would do all kinds of sexual. I swear we're interfacing sexually with computers. And that sounds bad. I'm a real nature person, by the way. It's possible to invoke fairies and be interfaced with computers, because I've done all that. But I don't know what the point is. And also, when he first came over, that Montauk boy first seemed like he was like in his early teens, like maybe 13. I was saying 15, I don't know, 13 to 14. And then like the next time he visited, he was like 8. And the next time he visited, he was like 6. And I was only like 4 or 5. So the next time he visited, he was like my age. And he had a little sister who is now his wife in real life. I don't understand that one. And then so I had my little brother. So the little sister and him would play, and me and him would play. I mean, yeah, you know what I mean? They're like 2 years younger, so they would play. His little sister, his little fake sister, and my little fake brother would play because they're the same age, and me and him would play. Same thing with the other family. I would play with the older son, and my brother would play with the younger son. And they would do computer interfacing. They would have us sexually doing weird stuff with computers.
Describe this computer. What did it look like?
I remember going to a place, they used to tell me it was Montreal, but I looked it up, and it was in New York State. And there was like a computer that we would sit inside with like gel, and they were always giving us marbles to play with. And I think the marbles were part of the gel or something. I'm not sure, but I think I was naked sitting in this stuff inside a computer. I don't know. I don't have very many good
This is
memories like some people do.
back in the 70s when this was taking
Yes.
place.
Like around 74.
And did these look a lot more advanced than the computers in the public sector at that time?
Gosh, you know what? I don't even remember it being like a computer. I remember it being kind of like a thing for energy to be picked up. I don't know.
Okay.
I think it was more like a computer. Like, I get frustrated sometimes typing because I wish that, like, I know I've had the feeling of being completely interfaced with the computer, where my body and soul, everything, the computer knows already what, for me to type it all out sometimes, I'm really good at typing and spelling. That's not the problem. It's just not being able to just flow through with the computer and just have it be.
Well, do you think it could be a regeneration tank?
Oh, I remember being outside of one of those. Did I show you that picture? I showed you it before. I don't know what this was, but I know it was off-world because I could just feel by the feeling of where I felt I was. And I drew myself as a spirit, but they had my hair cut off like a Nazi, so I had to cut the hair off. But I was waiting for my body. And I meditated on this yesterday, and I feel like I was pretty dead. I feel like that I was in an explosion. I feel like it was a Mars, and this is just my higher self has connected me through all this, and what my feeling is but I don't have a real memory. But my feeling is it was like an underground in Mars explosion. And I remember the memory of my body going in there was so limp. I might have been wrong at where the explosion was, but I know I was just limp, like I was like dead almost when I went in there. So I was waiting
for them to clone you a new body or
for the
regenerate you.
body. I don't know, to go back into my body.
Hmm.
To go back. And I think that stuff they put in my head and my face was like cloning material or something, like DNA material. But this, yeah, they were. I was waiting to go back into my body. I don't know if it was a clone body or what.
Okay.
Doesn't really make a difference.
Do you have any? Oh, go ahead.
This is a picture of in the barn when they started putting cows in it to make it look like a barn. This is a shirt from Florida. When we went to the Florida, oh my gosh. There's, I don't know. There's a certain amusement park that I was sold at, and I was put on rides, and there would be like drunk people in the 70s like coming in there to have like sex with us. And I remember going to a place, and I think, or what I'm thinking it was, is the marionette program, because I remember being like in this thing on the stage with like all these like really shiny ropes and stuff, like it was supposed to be like a boat, and just doing these kick spins and spinning, and but you couldn't see, but all around the top there were like dead, like I know there was one like hanging there, it looks like a bunch of like dolls, and I don't know if some of them might have just been dolls, but some of them weren't. I know one of them was a baby that was dying, and it had like something stick out of his eye, like I don't know really what a cyborg is. Everybody talks about what that, I don't know what that is, but there was some sort of mechanical stuff, and this baby was hanging there, and it had mechanical stuff in it. And I remember when it died, and I was so disattached from death. I was just like, oh, and I think it just went into the dumpster bin, and it was like, oh, that baby died. Like I remember like kind of being concerned the first time I saw it, and I was leaving, and we were going up these stairs, and it was still hanging there. And it was the end of the day, and I was like, Dad, like, that baby needs to come out of there. And then I guess the next night or whatever, I knew it was dead, and it was just okay. The baby died. Like,
so it almost seems like they were trying to dissociate you through this process of these dead bodies and babies.
well, they did a good job of that.
Or maybe even tie you into an altar that's connected to a baby type personality that was
Right, and it could be like, that would be perfect.
Because as a baby, you're totally under control of somebody else,
helpless.
Mm-hmm. And then the cyborg component would be interfacing with AI
and being like, we can control you no matter what.
Yeah. Okay. As far as that picture, that other person, was that you wearing that Florida t-shirt, or was that?
Yeah. And it's really interesting because I had it once on my phone, and I could blow it up and look, because it's a picture of a sailboat and all these little islands going off the coast of Florida. And I was brought to an underground base there. And the thing about it was, I was on this motorboat, like a regular old kind of wide motorboat, like nothing fancy at all, like a gray motorboat. And my fake brother was there. And there were all these like men, it seemed like, with cameras, like photographers, like news reporters. They were there too. And the thing was, is my fake brother, he was always way smarter than me, and he wasn't as programmed as me. So he'd always be telling me what the real truth was all the time. And he'd be like, look at the plants and then look at the boat. Look at the plants and then look at the boat. Because I thought, because they were always giving us drugs. And okay, because the plants that we were driving by in this boat were totally psychedelic. They were like something you'd see out of a Dr. Seuss book or something. I don't remember many specifics, but I just remember being like, what? Like, the plants were just like, and so I thought they had me on some kind of drugs, because they were always putting us on drugs. But my fake brother was like, no, look at the plants and then look at the boat. Look at the plants and look at the boat, because the boat was normal. You know what I mean? If I was on drugs, the boat would be all tripped out too. But it wasn't. It was only the plants that were tripped out. And so my fake mother goes, yeah, yeah, come let her, as I was sitting and she was standing in the front of the boat, and she goes, yeah, yeah, come let her sit out, come let her come up in front. She thinks it's just a ride. Like she was saying that I thought it was just a ride. And I always thought to myself, no, I think you have me on drugs. But all the plants were really weird. And then we went into an underground base. I don't remember how we got there, but we got there. We were underground, under the ocean, Alpha, Florida. And so when they gave me this shirt, I was wondering if that had something to do with the secret program that I was under, the underground underwater base in off of Florida.
Can you bring it a little closer so we can see what's on that shirt?
Can you see it at all?
Yeah, it's
It's like
kind of
all these
blurry. It almost looks like a pyramid.
islands off of Florida.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe you could do a scan of that and
yeah, I should scan it again because on the phone I could really get it good.
okay.
But it's interesting. So I'm like, I wonder if that's a normal shirt that kids get, or if that's a special, for like,
And
you know.
so what's your relationship with your brother like? Are you allowed to, do you want to talk about that or?
My kidnapped brother,
Yeah, yeah, in the photo. Do you,
he always tried to wake me up and tell me everything. Like he would say, Dad could hypnotize you, and then boom, like we'd be upstairs and my dad would be right there and he'd be gone. Like that's what I would remember, that he could. And like he'd always be waking me up. And so we moved to California, and these broke dirt bags were selling me pretty much. And my fake brother would get really mad about it, and he'd be like, why does she have to go? Why does she have to go? Like they would pack up like night gear for me and stuff, and they'd be like, and so he always kind of knew what was going on. And then we both became adults and we both moved on with our lives, and he got a place and I got a place, and separate places. And he would come visit me every once in a while, and he'd be like saying little things here and there, but I didn't really remember anything. And then when I got my memories back, I lost his phone number, and I called my fake mom to get it, and my fake dad said that she ran out of the house with their phone book. And then I had some guys looking for him, and it turns out that she, all of a sudden, okay, he was living in a really nice house down by Santa Cruz, and all of a sudden, her and him are living over by Tahoe on some property, and I'm like really scared. I'm like, oh no! And now I think I just looked at that he moved down to Texas with her, where she had been staying for the last 15 years or something. So I'm like worried for him. I'm like, is he under mind control, or I'm so worried. I don't even know.
so essentially
I've been trying.
you don't have a relationship with him because you're not allowed to make contact with him.
Yeah, they just made it like that. When we've had a kind of relationship,
And
like I
who's that?
wanted his
Your
phone
parents?
number.
Your
Hmm?
parents? These host parents?
Yeah, what did you say that
Well,
was called? The surrogate program or something?
yeah, surrogate it. But I mean, so let's just say you were to approach your mom and say, why can't you give me his phone number? What would she say?
And I don't even know her phone number anymore. They changed their numbers now. I mean, they must have known I was going to wake up at some point. I don't know what they think. I've been trying to, I stalk
Well,
them on the internet, and
what
I
about,
don't have their numbers, and I don't have his number.
do you have any desire to reach out to your mom and dad? Probably.
Yeah,
Probably
like
not.
this. So I do want to reach right out.
Okay. Well, they might have been a re-aged, or they might be a child now in somebody else's house being experimented on.
I see them on the internet, but the guys, the Nazi guy, I feel like that. Like I'm scared because it says they died, and I'm like, no way, they have technology. Like I'm trying to psychically like feel out where is he, and they're like, hopefully, I think I don't know. Hopefully, they're just
Mhm.
trapped somehow.
And
I don't know.
have you tried looking on Facebook, or maybe even try using some
For the
fake
kid
friends?
that was my friend that turned into my boyfriend, I tried to look for him. He was always like, come find me, come find me. I'll explain everything. And I've been looking for him. I don't know. It's hard.
So you lost contact with all these people.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Why don't you explain a little bit about some of your Montauk experiences? What do you recall about that?
Um, I don't remember being inside Montauk like everybody else does, but I definitely remember driving there a few times. Like I remember um, when I first got kidnapped, I was there, and I remember being electroshocked and flying out of that building, just flying out of it. I remember um, later on driving there, and there's these like cement things that stick out of the building, and I swear I thought they were going to squish me with these cement things. I remember driving by there and I thought that can't be Montauk, and I was getting my memories back and I looked it up, Montauk, and it's like Camp Hero, and it has these cement things that it looks like a test would be all day to just squish me with those things. And then I started thinking, is that how they age regressed me, with such a weight to make me that short? Like, but they didn't do that. I also remember when they kidnapped my brother, coming out of, like, I was, in a different altar until we walked out the door. We were like on the outside, like there's a building, then there's a shorter building, and I remember looking down at the shorter building, and my little brother was in there, my kidnapped brother, and I remember asking my fake dad, like, and we were with some other adult too, and I remember asking, when are we going to get him out of there? And the whole consensus was, if he ever even survives, like he might not ever get out of there. We don't know. Like it might be like he might not make it. We don't know if he's going to come out. Like, I'm like, when are we going to get to play with him? And it was like, he might not even make it out of there.
Yeah.
Was when he.
Most of them died that went through that.
Yeah. I don't remember anything else, though. That's basically it.
Okay.
Oh, I remember going there in the middle of the night, too, with my fake dad and that Nazi guy. Driving right up to the building, right off that. It was a long drive, and driving into the driveway and seeing it. And they had me on some weird drugs, too. But, yeah, that's all I remember. But I know I was going there.
Right.
I remember that word, Montauk. Oh, I looked it up, and I was like, oh, my God, I was there.
Do you have any more drawings you would like to share?
I think that was it.
Okay. Are there any other experiences that you want to cover?
Maybe in another interview. I don't know.
Okay. Are you writing a book?
I'm doing some YouTube videos.
Okay. Why don't you share your YouTube channel ID, or do you?
Okay, it's Kidnapped, Brainwashed, and Mind Controlled. That's what it's called.
Okay, so all right, we'll put a link for that in the video.
Oh, thank you. I have a website. I don't know. It's like I'm frustrated because I'm not that interfaced with the computer anymore. So now I'm like totally clueless when it comes to it. So I try to make websites, but YouTube's like way more rewarding. Like I put it up and it's up and that's it. Whereas like I make a website and I search through like thousands and I still don't even find mine. And so I'm like, I don't know. I do the keywords and all that stuff. I took the course like, oh, I'm going to do a website. But yes, I love writing. I'm a writer. So I will write all this down. I will. Actually, I've already written one book in my life.
So in the future, what would you like to see come from all this? I mean, besides maybe closure, maybe coming to a conclusion.
Yeah, it's therapy. It's therapy. Oh, because when I was first age regressed, they told me nobody would ever believe me. My fake dad told me that. I was like, unshrink me. And he was like, no one will ever believe you. And just talking to people like you, and I've talked to 2 other people that have been age regressed, and they believe me. And I would not be able to believe it. It's unbelievable. You know, I don't blame people for not believing me. So to be able to talk to other people that have been age regressed and put in the secret space program is like, it's so, it makes me like so relieved. So relieved. I was an addict. Like I used to be an alcoholic for years. Just I would drink like once or twice a week, but still, I was like suppressing all those memories. And now like I quit drinking like 10 years ago, but it's that same kind of like feeling of I don't have to like suppress all these feelings anymore. So that's just a huge reward right there. And I don't know if Donald Trump has some time travel. I'd like to be able to travel back to say to my parents, I'm okay, if that's possible. If anyone with a time machine, if Donald Trump or anybody with a time machine can go back and tell my parents that I'm fine, that would be awesome. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, you got to hope sometimes. They say that time travel is going to be coming out in the next 20 years anyway, right? Or less, right?
Around, apparently around 2028. And then
Yeah, like really
maybe
close.
2032 will be available to the public.
Yeah, so if I can just hold out, maybe I can go back and like visit my parents. I don't know. I know it sounds, but what I would like to see
So
from
you
it,
want to do that? You want to go back and confront them?
I would like to go back and see my real parents and tell them that I'm okay. And they might not believe me, or they might have a heart attack.
So that daughter of theirs disappeared, probably in their mind.
Yes.
They might have made a clone of you.
No, I was kidnapped. There's kidnapped. They have the wanted.
Mm, okay.
I'm like a kidnapped person.
Okay.
Turns out. And I knew other kidnapped people too, and missing people. It's
All right.
really. But yeah, what I'd like to see of it, maybe, I mean, if people could just get validated and know that this kind of stuff is happening, if people could know the moon, I mean, maybe after death they might amp up your bliss. You have to have control. You have to stop being addicted to everything and have some kind of control, so that when you die, it's like you have to be aware of what's happening, because I think they can just recycle your soul up there. It's, I'd like to see people know about that. I'd like to see people know that age regression is possible. There's different, they could put, I'm just hoping that the good is winning, and that they really can't do much of this anymore. I don't know really what's going on with it, but I hope the good comes out of it. I hope that people can just wake up, and I hope that we can get all this free energy from Tesla, and I hope that we can have time travel, and I hope that we can not stress so hard on paying all our bills, when if we can have free energy for at least our electric and our cars, then we won't be so stressed out. I don't know. That's what, there is this technology. I'm here to tell you that age regression is real. I promise you. If anyone that's ever known me in my life, I would not just sit here and lie. I'm not going to waste my time doing that. I don't ever gossip. I'm not that kind of person. I'm very spiritual. I would not be up here lying. So I just want people to know. People need to wake up. There's a whole bunch of technology.
Well, do you recall how it's done? How they age regress you?
I don't.
Okay.
Not at
Well,
all. All I know is that next thing I knew, I was short, and I was so mad and upset.
apparently, according to other SSP whistleblowers, there is they take a scan of your body while you're in the SSP. They take a scan, what I was told anyway, once a week. Some kind of maybe a scan of your aura, and then they reverse the pattern. They put you in this bed. They keep you there. I think it's typically 7 years for 1 week. You have to be told you're not allowed to move, so you got to be sedated for a full week to get back 7 years, and then might figure out how many years they want to take you back, and then they use that scan to reverse the image.
That really freaking happened to me, and I appreciate talking to you. Just hearing you say that, another adult human telling me, the sane person here telling me this, it's like, thank you. You just cured my aura, like, because that happened to me, and it was very scary. I had to go to God. It made me close to God. I didn't know what else to do. I had to cry out to God and be like, God, what do I do? This is crazy. What did they do to me?
Right. Well, thank you, Camilla. So I really appreciate you coming out here and sharing your testimony, and hopefully it'll resonate with someone out there who maybe help wake them up, or maybe get them some answers that they've been looking for as well.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay. And listeners, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. YouTube has changed their policy on how conspiracy videos are listed. It doesn't appear it's affected the traffic yet, but I just, considering some of the topics we go into, this is definitely in the conspiracy realm. So, but that's why I also recommend you visit supersoldiertalk.com. The videos are listed there. Maybe, I don't know, maybe in the future I could set up a Patreon. Of course, that's usually even more suppressed. But in the meantime, also be sure to please visit our sponsor. You see that right to this. And of course, thank you, Camilla, for joining. And thank you, listeners. And until next time, bye-bye. Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.